Hello everyone and welcome back to Wratting Road. I want to start off today's video just with a couple of things. The first one is I want to say a really big thank you to everybody that subscribes to my channel. I recently passed 2,000 subscribers, which really did come as a shock to me. I know I was really taken back when I reached 1,000, but to reach another 1,000 later, it really took me by surprise. I know I say this all the time, but all support really does mean a lot to me, and I do take note of everything. I may not reply to everybody's comment, but I really do try to. But either way, I do take notice of it, and it really does, it does make my day, and it really does make me happy. Makes me enjoy what I do a little bit more. So I thank everybody just for always showing support when needed. The second thing I want to talk about is my running session video, which was the previous video I'd done before this one, and I'll try and keep it as short as I can. But the previous video was my most successful video I've ever done in terms of things like views, new subscribers, comments, likes and things like that. Me in particular, I've never taken much notice of things like that. I've only ever really kept an eye on comments to see if anybody's commented and then replied to it. I've never taken much notice of things like the views and the likes along with it. But I was really taken back with the response to the running session video, and the only reason for that really was because I didn't really enjoy making it, if I was to be brutally honest. It was one of them times where flaws in the layout really did show, mainly in terms of how the layout functioned. The fact I haven't got a nice big footer yard to store the trains in, so I spent so much time swapping all the trains over just to make the video more interesting. It was worth doing obviously, but it was such a time consuming task, and it really I just got a bit fed up with the layout in all honesty. I did want to do the video, of course, because I did promise it, but I just didn't enjoy making it at all. But despite that, it was very well received, and as I said, I was really starstruck and taken back by the response to the video. So I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that showed the support and just made the video what it was. All the support means a hell of a lot to me. I really cannot thank everybody enough for what they do. So on that note, I'm going to move on to what the actual point of this video is. So today's video, I'm going to be making a start on the depot facility area, and this is all made up of all the unballasted track you see in front of you now. This isn't the final track plan though. I do need to make a few more changes to it yet, and you'll see those as the video goes on. Like my siding area, the depot facility area will take inspiration from Ipswich Freightliner depot. So I've had my good friend Mr. Paul Hughes has provided plenty of pictures from inside the depot, as he's an ex-Freightliner employee. So his reference pictures have really helped me and will hopefully come in very handy for creating the scene I'm after. So I'm going to put some pictures on screen now and just show you what I hope to achieve with this facility area. The real Ipswich Freightliner depot is a pretty small depot, and it doesn't have much facilities in it at all, which is one of the reasons why I chose it to take inspiration from. It features loco refuelling facilities as well as a stabling siding for the fuel wagons to get unloaded into the fuel storage tanks. The fuel then gets pumped to feed the actual refueling points, so then the locomotives like the Class 66s and 70s can take fuel. One thing I noticed about the refueling points at Ipswich is that the line that serves them is just made up of rails and chairs. There is no sleepers on there or ballast. It is purely just rails and chairs on top of a layer of concrete. So I'm going to be trying to create that effect on my layout using only rails and chairs rather than just use sleeper track with ballast underneath it, just to make it a bit more interesting. The real depot also has an inspection pit and along with an inspection walkway, so plenty of inspection facilities as well on the real depot, and my layout will be no different. The whole area is on a layer of concrete hard standing, so that'll be something I need to do before I do any of the placement of the buildings, so that'll be one of the first things I do. So time to start getting cracking on with the work. So with my depot, I'm just going to give a run through of what I want to achieve and where I hope everything will go. So starting from the left hand side, and I'll just make my way over to the right. So this little siding on the left here, this will be where my fuel wagons will be unloaded and will essentially be stored here. And then as you can see, I've got a set of Bachmann fuel storage tanks at the back of the depot, but I will be changing those out for a Nightwing kit as they're more prototypical to the ones at Ipswich. And then this centre road will be where the inspection pit will go. So I do need to work out where it will go. Obviously these tracks will be coming out, This line right in the middle is where my refueling road will be. So obviously that also needs to come out, and then that's where the rail with rails and chairs will be. And then as you can see, I've got a couple of backman refueling points there already, just to have a rough idea on where they will go. And then these two sidings on the right hand side, they'll just be sort of more like loco relief sidings. So locos will just sit there waiting for the next duty, and I'll probably have my wagon storage siding there as well. So then there'll be a rake of wagons maybe on the right hand side over here, while there'll be one sat in the depot that's waiting to be unloaded. So it gives you a rough idea on how the depot will look and function. So hopefully it will work really nicely and how I want it to. Leading up to the video, I did do a bit of planning beforehand, as you can see, and one of those things I did was map out where the concrete hard standing will go. This is roughly where the pen marks are, but it isn't the final position, as I do need to alter the track work slightly, but I'll talk about that more later. So once I've done that, I'll be able to get an idea on where the final position of the concrete hard standing will go. I've been preparing my inspection pit from Pico for installation by fitting some lighting to it, and I just followed a video over on David Watson's channel, Dean Park Station, and he done a good video a few years ago showing how to install lighting to a Pico pit and make it light proof. So I recommend watching that if that's something you want to do. I've pretty much just followed his tutorial, and that's how I done this. So I'll be fitting this later on and wiring up all the lights. I did test them beforehand and I know they work, so this is more or less ready to go in once I've cut all the baseboard out for it. And then these are just the shelters from the backman fueling points. I've added some lighting kits to them from West Hill Wagon Works, and again I've tested these up, so these are ready to be fitted as well. And I'll glue these back down and in place and wire up the lights once I've done all the concrete hard standing. So I'm now pretty much ready to start putting this area together, so I'm going to make a start and make out where the inspection pit will go, and then just fit that, wire up the lights, and then I can use that to extend back the sidings and then do all the concrete hard standing. So it's time to get on with some modelling. So I thought now would be a good place to stop and then just show you what I've done so far. I didn't show everything in a time lapse because some of it is quite repetitive, but I'll just show you what I've done so far. The inspection pit is now fully installed and the lighting is all wired up as well, and as you can see it is pretty nicely illuminated. I've got about 13 LEDs in there, so 7 on one side and 6 on the other side, and then they've all been fitted with 10k resistors, so they're not too bright, and I think they're just about right. So with the shed lights off, you can see how it looks fully illuminated, and it's got a really nice effect on there. I think the LEDs aren't as bright as what they are in person. You know, I did fit the 10k resistors to bring them down a fair bit, and it is a lot more appropriate in person, so all I ask is just take my word for it. There's still a little bit of light bleed in places, but that will get sorted out once I do the concrete hard standing in the area, and that should get rid of all the light bleed. And I've wired all of the LEDs to an on-off switch as well, so I can just turn them off as and when I please. So, you know, I can just create different scenes by turning them on and off like so. I think it creates a bit more control of the layout as well. Once I was happy with everything, I just plugged in some of the foam insulation I used just to fill in some holes and then get rid of some of the light bleed. Comes in very handy for little things like this, so I've just put some in the holes that I had to make room for the LEDs, and also just to fill the holes that I drilled for the power to the track, or the rails in this instance. So it does come in very handy. You can use polyfiller instead, but it just keeps the mess a little bit down, and it's just more or less instant as well with the foam. So obviously those will be getting covered by the concrete hard standing anyway, so you won't see those once the filler's on top of them. I've mapped out the area where all the concrete hard standing will go with the wooden chopsticks like I did with my car park, and as you can see they go all the way up to the car park gates, so the path will be in between where those wooden chopsticks are at the far end over there. So it's pretty much the same as what I done on my depot car park when I made the concrete for that, so that's why I didn't show it, because it's a bit repetitive on what I've done in the past. As you can see, I took up the track that's used to serve the fuel point, and then I'll be adding rails and chairs along this area alongside the fuel points and next to the wooden chopsticks. So once I've done the concrete hard standing, then the rails and chairs will go on top of that. So I'm quite looking forward to getting that in. And then the 2 backman fueling points, the glue for those is currently going off. Those have been fully stuck down, so by the time I come in tomorrow, those shouldn't move at all. And I use 2 of my Class 66s, and then I just position them in the area and then just spaced out the fuel points accordingly, just so I was happy with their positioning. And then I can have 2 Class 66s or 2 long wheelbase locos using the fuel points at any one time. So quite happy with that. So I'm going to go away now and then come back tomorrow when everything's all dry, and then I can start adding the filler and then get all the concrete hard standing in. So I've covered a lot of progress since I last spoken, so I just thought I'd pause again and just show you what I've done. The concrete for the area is in place, and that is more or less there now. So I used the polyfiller method like I used on the car park, and then just got it nice and sanded down. But this time I wanted the area to be relatively smooth. I didn't want it full of patches and stuff. There is still a little bits and pieces of imperfections if I just come a bit closer, but there's nothing like massive potholes or anything like that in the area. So I wanted it to be quite smooth, quite cared for in a way. And then once it was all ready to be painted, I used plastic coat suede as a base colour. I heard quite a lot of people rave about that, and I thought I'd try it for myself. It was alright for a base colour, but I didn't really want it to stay that way, so I used the watered down paints method like I used on the car park, and I think this time it's worked a lot nicer. So as you can see, there's a variation in darks, in dark greys and light greys, and a few browns in places as well. I'll stress that it does stick out quite a lot on camera, that there isn't much blend, but it isn't that bad in person. So once all the paint was dry, I was then ready to move on to the fuel point road, and as you can see, I've laid the vast majority of that, but I've just got to make up a little piece of section just to extend it up to that buffer stop there. And that was fairly straightforward to do, just very time consuming. And then I showed you the gauges earlier on, which are these things. Can't get it into focus very well, that's better. So what they've just got a couple of little grooves in there, and then what you do, if I just come down, you just place them on the track, if I can get it in the right place, and then they should sit in there nice and sturdy, and then you should be able to just move them across like so, or just, if you just wedge them in between the track, you can't move it from side to side, so that's how you know you've got it in the right place. So I didn't really show that very well in the time lapse, so I apologise for that. I had these concrete buffer stops 3D printed for me by Jason Hannant. I got in contact with him, sent him some prototype photos, and then within a few days he printed them, tested them and sent them out to me, and I'd received them a couple of days ago. So they look all right. I think they were more or less what I was after. So I'm happy with those. And then once they've been primed and painted and weathered, I think they'll really look the part. And then I've just got another 2 of those already on the section that I've just tested to fit in place. So you've got one there that's just the buffer stop for the fuel point, and then I've just placed that down and then just filled in where the holes are that go over the track, because I don't need those. And then just another one there as well for the fuel unloading siding. And then I've reinstated one of the canopies just to test the clearances from the loco roof to the actual canopy itself. And as you can see, there's plenty of room there. So I just need to fit the last one to do the same. Okay, so that's now both the shelters in place, and I've also wired up the lights to them as well, so I'll show you those in a second. And as you can also see, I've extended the fuel point road, so now that goes right up to the end of the hard standing, and then I've just put the buffer stop on top of the rails, which hides the wires for them, just to connect them up to the power. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out, and I'll just turn off the lights and just show you what these look like when illuminated. And then these are the fuel points with their lights fully illuminated in the dark. I did put another 1K resistor on there, but they do come pre-wired, and normally you can just hook them straight up to the power, but yeah, I did knock it down with another 1K resistor just to bring the lighting down a little bit. It was a bit on the high side for me, but I'm happy with how they came out. And as you can see, I've got enough room there for 2 Class 66s to stop and refuel, so that came out all right. Only just though, I mean the concrete is just starts around there, and then if I just come over here, you'll see where the buffer stop is. So literally that Class 66 buffers are nearly kissing the buffer stop there. So yeah, just enough room, but you know, enough room is enough room, and I'm quite pleased with that. That's how I wanted it to look. Still got a long way to go with this yet. It obviously isn't finished yet. I've still got to do all the detailing, tidy up some areas, just have a just a check round before I move on to the next part, which is detailing it all. But before I do that, I'll probably get stuck in getting rid of all of this baseboard in front of it, getting all the ballast and ground cover in there first, all the trackside detailing. So that'll probably be the topic of the next video. Something else I want to make a start on soon is a road scene with a bridge. and that will just cross over the railway roughly about where it is now. It isn't going to be the final location. I've just put it there just to give you all an idea. And then over here there'll be an embankment that will raise up to the road surface from the bottom of the fuel point area, or the whole of the depot for that matter. So I want to get all of the messy stuff in, all of the scenic work in before I do all the detailing. So that'll be something I'll hopefully get done fairly soon as well. I probably won't get it done before Christmas, to be honest, but there's no rush, but I'll do what I can when I can. And on that note, I'll round the video up now, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Any questions, feel free to get in touch. I'll link all my social medias, like my Facebook page, Instagram page, and my RMWeb thread as well, so you can check any of those out. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. But until next time, take care, happy modelling, and stay safe. Bye.